Like, I'm not like a, I don't know, like, I feel like I don't know. I think that's, we played fast, we played up tempo. That's where like I kind of got.
What were you going to say though? You don't know.
I don't know.
Caitlin Clark just confirmed what many of her fans have suspected all season, and if you're Fever management, you'd better be paying attention. She sat down with Sue Bird on her podcast, and while she's usually very careful with her words, for PR reasons, this time she let her guard down just enough to reveal what's really happening behind the scenes and how she feels about it. She didn't launch a direct attack or call anyone out by name, but if you pay attention to who she praised and the way she critiqued the pro game, the message between the lines is hard to miss. And that's important because what she's describing could have a major impact on the direction of her career.
And you see the Mavs just play differently without Luka on the floor. He's a guy who's high usage rate, the ball's in his hands. When he's not on the floor, that ball is moving, it's popping, multiple players getting involved in action, and everyone's stepping up.
She literally said she likes how the Mavericks play without Luka Doncic because there's more movement and everyone gets involved. And that instantly calls back to one of the most infamous hot takes from Carolyn Peake, the kind of opinion that set social media on fire for all the wrong reasons.
I think that Indiana is even more dangerous when Caitlin Clark doesn't play because she's a ball-dominant guard. The ball's in her hands a lot, so you know what you need to try to take away.
Same exact mindset, the belief that a team can actually function better when the ball isn't dominated by one player. And then look at this moment with Stephanie White right after Caitlin returned from injury, a scene that perfectly highlights the tension between philosophy and execution on the court.
You know, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I don't worry about Caitlin getting back into the flow offensively. You know, I worry about, I wouldn't say worry, but I think my biggest concern is when we reintegrate her, how do we continue to keep our ball movement and getting the ball going, not just side to side, but baseline to baseline.
You can clearly see that Stephanie White's focus isn't on how to unlock Caitlin Clark's full potential, but on making sure Clark doesn't disrupt her carefully designed system. That's the real issue because Clark is at her absolute best and the fans are most engaged when she's the one dictating the offense, controlling the pace, and making the decisions. Caitlin knows this, which is exactly why her sit-down with Sue Bird feels less like casual conversation and more like a subtle but unmistakable critique of her current situation. And in this interview, she dropped the guard she normally keeps up. First, notice how she gushed about how her Iowa coach ran practices, and if you listen closely, you'll hear the accidental jab at Stephanie White hiding inside that praise.
Even our backup post players, like, I always think about like how Coach Bluter like ran practices and things, and like I'm very fortunate looking back and like now going to like watch other colleges' practices and things like that. Like, she really like was so intentional about like making sure everyone was on the same page and like knew what they were doing and knew their role. In a way, like when I talk to people about it, I like joke like she brainwashed people, not like actually, but like
no,
you
part
like
of it is a
we're
little
like
bit of
brainwashed into like, okay, if you drive here, like you're going here and you're going here, and like even now at the professional level, I'm like, how do people not know like where to move? Like it blows my mind still. Like, but I think it just makes me like really appreciative of like what Coach Bluter was able to do when we were at Iowa. Like she was so smart. She was able to like construct a team and make sure everyone always knew what they were going to do, whether you were the smartest basketball player on the team or you weren't. Like you were always on the same page with your teammates.
There's a lot to break down here, and it starts with the fact that Caitlin's words were a massive compliment to Lisa Bluter, her Iowa coach. Bluter took a roster that wasn't stacked with 4- or 5-star recruits like UConn and still guided them to the national championship game twice. That kind of success doesn't just happen, it comes from sharp coaching, a clear system, and a team where every player knew their role, their spot, and their job, executing it with precision. It ran like a well-oiled machine, but when you switch over to the WNBA, the contrast is glaring. Caitlin saying it blows her mind that players don't know where they're supposed to be is not some casual throwaway comment, it's a powerful statement. And whether she meant it directly or not, it's hard not to see it as an indirect dig at Stephanie White, because at the end of the day, whose responsibility is it to drill those fundamentals, enforce standards, and keep the team organized? The head coach, if your star player is openly admitting she's stunned by how lost her teammates look, that's not about team chemistry, it's about coaching.
Repetition's a real thing. Practice is a real thing. And if we listen to some of these Indiana Fever players speak about what's currently going on, there's not nearly enough practice. Caitlin Clark speaks about how in the WNBA, players still don't know the correct spot to be in. We see that often this year. Last year, that was running rampant all over these Indiana Fever games. You couldn't go one Indiana Fever game without Caitlin Clark throwing a pass to a spot where the player needed to run to. Instead, the player ran the complete opposite direction.
And here's the thing, it's not just about Stephanie White, as Ben Daniel pointed out. This same issue was showing up last year too. Players not knowing their spots, not getting enough practice reps, and constant confusion in the offense. But for Caitlin, this isn't just some minor growing pain anymore. This is year 2, and the same problems are still there, which makes it clear this is turning into a bigger and far more frustrating pattern for her, both on and off the court. And what happens next, whether Caitlin intended it or not, basically removes any doubt that there's serious tension brewing behind the scenes.
I think one of the special parts of your game is that balance, and clearly you figured that out early. So like, what in that, if you can think back to that time, like what are you learning about that balance and how to achieve both?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like always been a part of my game. And I think the pace at which I play, like that's where a lot of my assists come, like in transition. Like I'm not like I don't know, like I feel like I don't know. I think that's, we played fast, we played up tempo. That's where like I kind of got.
What were you going to say though? You don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
Caitlin caught herself mid-sentence, and that moment matters. She's talking about how most of her assists come in transition, how she thrives when the game is played with pace, and she's just about to spell out the type of player she isn't. Then suddenly she stops, almost like you can see the wheels turning in her head in real time. Because if she finished the thought, she's basically admitting the system doesn't fit her game, and that would instantly blow up into headlines. So instead, she throws in the quick "I don't know" shrug. But let's be real, that wasn't an "I don't know." That was "I know exactly what I'm thinking, but if I say it out loud, it's going to spark problems." At this point, Caitlin has already implied her coach isn't drilling her teammates on where they need to be on the court. Now she's also hinting that the system she's being asked to run doesn't match her strengths. That's a dangerous mix, the wrong system combined with a lack of direction. And for a player like Caitlin Clark, that isn't just inconvenient, it can be career stifling. But here's the kicker, that moment still isn't the most telling part, because the next 2 clips, they're jaw-dropping. They don't just hint at frustration, they practically confirm everything Caitlin Clark fans have been saying all season about how she's being coached, or maybe more accurately, how she's being held back. And what comes next goes way beyond X's and O's, or whether she's playing on or off the ball. This cuts deeper. This is psychological.
I think the risk assessment thing, like maybe it's a toxic part of me, but I always think it's going to go well. And then I throw it and it doesn't go well.
Honestly, a little delusion is nice.
Yeah, I definitely
feel like
have some
in
delusion.
order to be great,
for sure.
you have to have it.
For sure, I definitely have some delusion. And all the good players have delusion.
Yes.
Like that's just true, the truth. Like you have to think you're better than you actually are at the end of the day. Like
100%.
you have to have that confidence about yourself.
She understands it perfectly. You have to be confident enough to make the play and fully believe you can make it. That's not arrogance, it's instinct, and instinct comes from one thing: reps. Endless Reps, Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink, explains how humans make split-second decisions without conscious thought because experience has trained the subconscious to recognize patterns instantly. That's Caitlin Clark in a nutshell: years of obsessive training, thousands of game reps, burned into muscle memory, and a basketball IQ so sharp she sees the floor in ways most players can't even process. Her entire reputation, her legend, has been built on this. Not overthinking, just reading, reacting, and creating plays that flip games on their head. And when she's allowed to play that way, when she's cooking, she's a force of nature. She's not just a player who wins you games, she's the kind of player who changes the sport itself. That's why arenas sell out. That's why WNBA ratings skyrocket when she's on the court. Fans aren't showing up to watch a system, they're showing up to watch her create magic in real time. And that's exactly what makes her next comment so concerning, because it hints that this instinct, the very thing that makes Caitlin Clark who she is, might be getting smothered.
But I think that's even been something like me and Steph have like always talk about when we go and watch film, and even like that New York game where like I played really, really well. Obviously scored a lot of points. I think I had 9 assists or 10 assists that game. This just this last game this year. I started the fourth quarter off with like 3 turnovers in a row or 2 turnovers in a row, and Steph yanked me, and she was like this is like a learning moment. Like you got to be able to like, yes, like maybe it could have been there. Like maybe you could have thrown a little bit better of a pass. Maybe they could have caught it, but like, do we need that in this moment? Like no. Right. And then she subbed me back in, and there was a play where I kind of got a steal, and like we're going in transition, and Kelsey Mitchell just like takes off down the middle of the floor. And so there's like 2 people kind of by her, and I literally like go to grab the ball, and then I like just dribble out. And I like literally just start smiling so big, and I look at Steph, and I like told her after the game. That better be on film. Yeah, I'm like, you don't understand how hard it was for me to not throw that. And she's like, oh, I know, trust me. Everybody was like, we saw you about to throw that.
Caitlin Clark might understand the idea of being responsible and making safe decisions in the moment. And sure, that sounds fine in a coach's meeting, but on the court the reality is different. Kelsey Mitchell was standing wide open, and that's the kind of pass Caitlin has been making since she was a teenager, yet this time she hesitated, and the only explanation is that Stephanie White seems to be slowly stripping away what makes her special, forcing her into a passive, play-it-safe role that doesn't just slow the game down, but also drains her natural fire. Fans aren't spending big money to watch a watered-down version of Caitlin Clark. They want the version that's unleashed and playing at full speed, because when she's allowed to cook, everyone around her benefits. But right now, it feels like the Fever have put a limiter on the very engine that was supposed to drive the entire franchise.
I have a sneaking suspicion. You guys know what putting a governor on a car is? I feel like Stephanie White has put a governor on Caitlin Clark. Oh, I need you to play this way. I need you to be extra careful. I need you to blah, blah, blah. When Caitlin Clark is saying, if I'm going to play make, there are going to be some turnovers with it. In case you're wondering who the leader in turnovers is in NBA history, it's LeBron James. I mean, how many games have we seen in LeBron's career where he's went for 28, 7, and 9? That's what you're dealing with here, all right? And he's going to have turnovers. She's going to have turnovers. You got to let Caitlin cook. You got to turn her loose.
The point has been made before. Even LeBron James turns the ball over sometimes, but you live with it because you have to let your best players cook. And that's exactly where the alarm bells should be ringing at the WNBA level, because if a generational talent like Caitlin Clark is being held back in the name of safe basketball, then the league and her team risk wasting the very thing that makes her a game changer.
There also, when you don't play, there's a dip, like a substantial dip. So how do you handle, does it impact your patience? You know what I mean? Like, you're coming back from this injury, and you know this, everybody knows this, that when you play that changes.
Yeah.
I guess the better question is, how are you like managing it so it doesn't impact your patience?
Yeah, I
know you want to be out there.
Definitely been hard.
Yeah.
Well, like, I'm gonna go to every road game no matter what, like whether I'm playing or not. Like, and it's hard because obviously I do feel this like responsibility of like being out there and playing, and like, not that I like think there's like a fear of any of this ever going away. Like, that doesn't happen when like LeBron or Steph get hurt. Like, they're always gonna be there. No, like, you know, yeah, exactly. So, but like, you do want to play. Like, you want to give people something to cheer about or scream about, or, you know, people spend so much time and money and resources to come and watch you play.
Yes, this clip is about Caitlin wanting to come back and play, but she slipped in something important here that should have every executive in the Fever and WNBA offices paying attention, because at the end of the day, it's the fans who are spending big money to watch her play and to give them something to scream about. Yet right now it feels like she's being held back from delivering the very show they signed up for, and the danger in that is clear, because if you force Caitlyn to stop playing like Caitlyn, interest is going to fall. Since while people may love her personality, her leadership, and her story, this is still entertainment and the product on the floor has to come first, which is why when Jason Whitlock said this, even though it rubbed plenty of people the wrong way, there was a real truth behind it.
There are two groups of Indiana Fever fans. There's a group of Indiana Fever fans that want to see the Indiana Fever play well and they enjoy Caitlin Clark. And then there's a group of Indiana Fever fans who aren't Indiana Fever fans. They're Caitlin Clark fans. And all they want to see is Caitlin Clark win an MVP, shoot logo threes, prove that she's 10 times better than Angel Reese, and they really don't care about winning or losing.
I'd rather watch Caitlyn put on a show in a Fever loss than sit through a boring Fever win. And I'm not the only one who feels that way, because before Caitlin Clark, the WNBA had plenty of safe, system-first basketball, but you know what? It didn't have record-breaking ratings, sold-out arenas, and people actually talking about it. And while winning will always matter, Caitlyn has already proven you can have both winning and entertainment, just like she did at Iowa under Lisa Bluder, where she didn't just win games, she captured the attention of an entire nation. And that momentum didn't slow down once she left college, because now the WNBA is riding a wave worth billions with team valuations doubling to a collective $3.5 billion and a new media rights deal worth at least $1 billion. And make no mistake, that surge is tied directly to Caitlin Clark and the buzz she created at Iowa, because she hasn't just raised the Fever's profile, she's changed the league's direction. Which is exactly why what's happening right now feels so baffling, since there has to be some internal friction, and while I don't doubt that Caitlyn and Stephanie White respect each other, when you start hearing quotes like this, you can't help but wonder how deep the strategic divide actually goes, especially looking at their recent win against the Sky without Caitlyn.
This was the statement that Stephanie White gave, and I'm sorry if I read this and immediately thought, oh, this is lathered, marinated, soaked, drowned in shade towards Caitlin Clark. When it's not about you, transcendent dynamic player, potentially best player this league's ever seen. When it's not about you and it's about everybody else and it's about the whole, it makes it worth it. It makes going through the struggles worth it. And I just think that this group is a special one. You beat the Chicago Sky.
A quote about the collective might sound fine on its own since basketball is a team sport, but when you line it up next to this interview, the meaning shifts completely because it paints Caitlyn as a player who is confident, willing to take risks, and capable of making big plays, yet instead of being the system, she's being squeezed into one, and when she steps on the floor it feels like she's being conditioned, or maybe even told outright, to play risk-averse basketball, which isn't just a questionable strategy, it's flat out limiting the most powerful engine the WNBA has ever had. And that's why this interview matters so much, because it didn't just hint at frustration, it ripped the curtain open, and once you connect the dots, it's almost impossible to ignore the truth that the Fever aren't just holding back their star player, they could be holding back the future of the entire league. So I'll say it one last time, let Caitlyn cook or watch the kitchen close, and now I want to know what you think, so sound off in the comments, and thanks for watching.